By now, some of you may have watched the documentary Animal that talks about the carnivore diet, its healing benefits, how some of the advocates for the carnivore diet have healed with it, and how it is ultimately the diet that we should be eating as humans. We talk through a lot of the nuance of how we even got to believe that meat or saturated fats are bad for us. I now eat a lot of meat, and so do they. If you want to thrive, you need to eat meat. Meat is required. Hey guys, my name is Judy Cho and I'm board certified in holistic nutrition, and I have a functional medicine practice where we focus on root cause healing, and that often starts with the Carnivore Cure's all meat elimination diet. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Vinny Lingham. He is the producer of Animal. He funded the whole thing, and he did it because he wanted to share more about the carnivore diet, having a succinct place and way to share the benefits of the diet, the science around it, and why it is so important to eat a meat focused diet for wellness and to have longevity as a human being. In this conversation, we talk deeply about Vinny's experience with the carnivore diet, why he pursued it, why him and his wife eat this way, and what it has healed in the process of their journey. It's interesting because I will give you a little sneak peek, but he shares that a big benefit he had was gut healing. It's funny because we think that in order to have optimal gut healing and gut health, we need to be consuming fiber. And he shares, without even talking much about fiber, that for him, a carnivore diet, the biggest thing it does for you is bring you gut healing. And for me too, gut healing was a big part of my healing, as that helped with my mood imbalances or with my severe depression. If you have never tried a carnivore diet, or if you're interested and you're eating meat based, this is a conversation for you. And additionally, if you are in or not in the crypto space, but you've heard a lot about it, this conversation talks about why there is such an overlap between carnivores and people in the crypto space, Bitcoin, and all the other cryptocurrencies, and why more people are flocking to these areas. Okay, guys, let's get right into the interview. Hi, Vinny. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to dive into your film, Animal, a little bit about crypto, and then obviously your story with the carnivore diet. If you can introduce yourself to the people that are listening and watching.
It's really so good to be on this podcast. I mean, it was great to meet you in person at the premiere, and thank you for being on the documentary. You're a critical part of it. So, um, yeah, I'm happy to give a quick background on myself and how I got into this. It's funny because I've always grown up being a big fan of movies and making movies as a kid, and kind of was one of my passions. But I went into the tech world, so I was coder at university and started building tech companies 20 years ago, early days, post dot-com collapse. And so I was based in South Africa. I'm a South African born up until 2008. And then I moved to Silicon Valley. I spent about 10 years in the Bay Area building companies, investing, getting involved in cryptocurrency. And then I moved down to San Diego for about 6 years. And now I live in Austin, Texas. Um, and over the past, a couple of years, I was thinking about starting a production company, maybe making some movies. And I started H2O Studios. We're doing three movies to see how it goes. The first one was a documentary called Animal, and then the other two are full-length feature films. And just let's see how it goes. It's an experiment, but it's a personal passion project. Um, and yeah, so I've had a lot of success in the tech world over the years, and I think what makes give me a different documentary lens for Animal was that, like, I'm not a special interest group. I don't have an agenda. I'm not I was vegetarian for 2 years and I tried that out. I've tried out every type of diet out there. I had a bunch of gut issues in 2018 linked to my mom passed away. I got an ulcer. They put me on PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, which caused the big gut bacterial overgrowth, which was SIBO. I went on antibiotics. So, I mean, I was taking lots of fiber. I was trying elemental. I was trying all this stuff. And honestly, nothing was really working. The more fiber I had, the worse my condition would become.
Right.
And so yeah, I got to the point where I was eating kind of Mediterranean diet style, not too much, but like a bit of fiber here and there. And I was still having issues. And then my wife wound up having some sort of weird autoimmune condition in about 2021, I would say. Yeah, it was 2021, like 4 years ago. Or maybe it was 2022. And as a result of that, like everything, like whenever she ate like seafood or whatever, she had this like rash that come up, and she'd have a breakout of hives, and her body was just having these weird reactions. And so we were trying to figure out how do we fix this because it was just like, she some days she couldn't walk because her joints were swollen, like, whatever was swollen. And so this went on for like 3 or 4 months. And then we got to the point where we were like, I think it was actually 2022, so about 3 years ago. We got to the point where like, well, let's try something else out because I was still having gut issues. And I looked into, all these different diet plans. And the one thing I never tried was carnivore because it just sounded ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like eating meat all day, every day for like months and then or whatever. Just like, but I looked into the science around how bacteria grows in your gut and what it feeds on and why carbohydrates keep the bacteria from, especially the bad gut bacteria
Right.
growing. I did gut tests. My Akkermansia was zero. I tried taking Akkermansia pills for like, I don't know, a couple of years and nothing worked. Um, Spoke to a friend who went on carnivore and he said he managed to replenish his Akkermansia. It was kind of like a mucosal sort of bacteria in your gut. And so it was always in the back of my mind. So I said to her, I said, let's just try this carnivore thing. I'll do it with you because I want to try and heal myself and let's see if this helps you. 'Cause it's an elimination diet at the very core. If all you're having is beef, salt, water, and some eggs, hopefully you're not allergic to eggs, you should be able to detect if something is in your diet that's causing this, or if it's an immune condition that's like in your body. Your body's fighting something, and something you're putting into it. If you don't know what it is, and you're eating all these things, how do you fix it? So we did that. In about 2 months of doing it, she was totally healed. Like like she was fine. And so started reintroducing other foods back in, and nothing. Like she wasn't getting any breakouts. So the biggest thing I think in the first month was two things that happened. One was just total gut dysbiosis, where everything from diarrhea um, to constipation, back and forth. Some days, it's like, hey, toss a coin, figure out which one is going to be. It was really, really random. And she had similar issues. But I think after the gut sort of cleared out whatever bad bacteria was there, and we had some oxalate dumping, I think me more than her, where I was having like weird breakouts and rashes and like, burning poop and the whole lot. It was like pure oxalate crystal dumping. And after we got it through that phase of it, it was kind of smooth sailing, and we went from being on like a pure carnivore diet to more like animal based and whatever else, and she was fine, no issues. I had no issues, and so it actually really helped us. And then steadily over the next call it the next year or so, I was just experimenting. I tried adding some things back in. I had some breads, and the more I added in all these things, the worse I felt.
Mm.
And so I was like, why did I feel so good on carnivore? The one thing that held me back on carnivore was I went from lifting pretty heavy weights. I mean, I'm 46 and I was lifting maybe 65s at the time, pounds on each arm. And I went, oh, it was 75. It was 75. And I went down to, after like 4 weeks, I was at 65. And after like 6 weeks, I was at 55. I was getting weaker. So I added carbs back in my diet because naturally I'm like, this is not working for me. I'm getting weaker, etc. So, over the next year or so, I got my strength back when I had the carbs, but the gut issues came back. Had some issues, and then I said, okay, I'm going to just go full bore carnivore, and I'm actually going to make a documentary about it as well. And I got Josh, the director, on board, and I told him the whole story, and we started making the documentary, and I went full carnivore around the same time as well. And actually, the funny thing is, the second time around, my body was able to get fat adapted a lot quicker.
Right.
So after 6 weeks, the same thing happened. I went from 75s down to 55s. But after 8 weeks, I was up at 85. So, so there's this weird like dip in your energy,
Right.
and then and then your body just kind of adapts to using fats. And that's how guys like Sean Baker can do the things he does. His body is so adept at just converting fats into instant, quick energy for his body. He can lift heavier weights. He can train hard in the gym. And so then I was like, oh, hang on, this is actually interesting. So now I'm stronger now on carnivore than I was on carbs. And anyway, so look, there's a lot that went into making the movie, and this is my personal journey experience. But I'm at the point now where, for the most part, I'm full carnivore. I do have a bit of berries and maybe some like fruit, especially when I'm traveling, because it's really hard when you're traveling to get the calories in and
Right.
and get actually decent sized portions of food. I was in Europe, and you go to Italy and you actually cannot get enough meat. You can't get 12 ounce 15-ounce steaks in most places. This is like you have to order like three main courses. It's kind of
Right.
crazy. Even on airplanes and airports, and like it's just, fasting is probably the best option, but it's just really hard with the time zones and everything else. So for the most part, like I eat grass-fed, grass-finished meat at home, so steaks and eggs. I started having skyr yogurt, which is the Icelandic yogurt. So I have skyr because it's actually pretty good for my gut. I don't have any issues. I think for most people, if you've got some sort of condition or issue, stay away from all that stuff. But if you can tolerate some berries, some avocado, some dairy, raw milk's great, raw cheeses are great. Like you can tolerate those things, I'm all for it. But I stay away from grains. Like you can go and put a bowl of bread in front of me, and I just say no. I want to have bread. I want to have pasta. I want to have any grains. I was in Japan. I had a bit of sushi, but we're talking like, you know, 20 grams of rice or whatever it is, like very small portion with or whatever. That's about the closest I get to grain, and that's because again I'm traveling. I make exceptions a little bit, but I don't have any autoimmune conditions. I don't struggle, but I just think personally, the most optimal diet is being in ketosis. I play poker actually at a pretty high level,
Okay.
and when I play poker, I switch over to one meal a day. I do beta hydroxybutyrate,
Mhm.
an MCT oil, and I do some ketone IQ as well, which is so I'm in ketosis for like 5, 6, 7 days of poker. We're playing like 10, 12 hours a day of playing cards and tournaments. And I'm just like in ketosis the whole time. And so that's my like, superpower hack because my brain is just so smooth and clear. And I have infinite energy. I don't have these ups and down spikes and peaks and troughs with like, insulin spikes and whatever else. So depends on what you're doing. I think you can adapt. And I think everyone is different. You got to find your personal balance. But I think people need to appreciate that the carnivore diet is really a diet for healing. And then you can sort of move away from it when you feel that you're in a good place.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think there's several things I want to touch on. It's interesting. So, one thing I do want to ask is when you are playing cards, why do you switch to OMAD and then why are you taking the ketones? I suspect I know the answer, but I'm curious for the people that are listening and watching. Hey guys, just a really quick break. Nutrition with Judy's private practice is now called Empower Functional Health. I started as a nutritional therapist, but we have become much more all encompassing. At Empower Functional Health, we do functional medicine, chronic illness, autoimmune, gut health, environmental illness such as SIRS, mold illness, Lyme. Regardless of all these names, the goal for us is always to get you root cause healing answers. And of course, carnivore, the all meat elimination diet, is always on the table. Food, the right food, is always medicine. We offer functional tests, prescription meds, and really everything to get you closer to root cause, where you can just eat the meats you enjoy and live the life that you are meant to symptom-free. The goal is to get off meds, supplements, and everything else that your body no longer needs support in. Our practice, whether it's Nutrition with Judy, sharing podcasts and free content, or our private practice, Empower Functional Health, our goal is to support you guys in the barbell theory. We give a lot of free content, our evidence-based research. We don't use Substack. We give all our stuff away for free. We interview with the best and make it super tactical so you have clinical pearls that you can walk away with and try in your own healing journey. And then we work with some people in a smaller subset, one-on-one, to provide that level of personalized care. And as we heal these people that are chronically ill, we find these clinical pearls and golden nuggets that we can share then more publicly so that we can make wellness for all. Hopefully, the content and the guides and the free stuff we give out is enough for you to heal. But if it's not, you can always come and work with us in our private practice so that you can get more personalized care. If you want to learn more, make sure to check out empowerfunctionalhealth.com.
The day before, I mean, obviously, so I do have wine from time to time. I'm like a couple of times a week. I'm a big wine guy, so it's hard to give that up. But again, it actually, I've tested. If I have one or two glasses, I can sleep really well, and I have, my body that doesn't reject it. So, but when I'm playing poker, I won't touch it, right? So I won't even have the night before, like whatever. Like I'm not having wine. Um, and the reason I do it is so when I wake up the next morning, I'll go to the gym and I'll take some supplements. I do like acetyl L-carnitine and some alpha lipoic acid. I do take true niagen. I take NAD, NR effectively. and a couple of like just a couple of supplements. I take supplements for longevity and focus, not for health. Like I don't really take supplements because I'm nutritionally deficient. It's just more for optimization. And then I'll probably go to the gym, do like a 30-minute workout, not too much because you don't want to be hungry for the rest of the day because you're playing poker and I don't want to eat. The reason I don't eat when I play poker is that it deprives my brain of blood flow, right? So if you have the situation where you basically have a gut full of food, you're going to struggle with being able to focus. And so I just don't eat. And
Okay.
the beta butyrate helps, it boosts your ketone levels, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I don't eat. And then by around 6:30, 7 o'clock, we break for dinner. And remember, we're playing until 1 a.m. in the morning. So I just have water, ketone shots, and that's it. Maybe and maybe some MCT oil again, and that's it. And then dinner I'll have a steak. And then I go back to playing poker.
No, it makes
And
sense. I
that
mean,
and that's
you're
like a week, that's like a week at a time, like every day for a week. It's kind of crazy.
okay. So it sounds like you're doing that as almost a biohack to be in the most efficient
Yes.
ketone producing and make your mind as sharp as possible to be able to and not have, as you said, those insulin spikes. So I think that's super
Yeah.
brilliant. It makes so
And
much
when
sense.
I say I'm playing at a high level, I'm playing like at the World Series of Poker,
Okay.
the big tournaments. I final table two in a row. And this is the sort of $50,000, $100,000 buy-in tournaments. It's like it's pro level stuff,
Okay.
and I just find that I can compete with the best in the world if I'm focused.
Okay. Do any of the other players eat your way or at least try to get
Yeah.
some ketones in?
I,
Oh, okay.
I kind of like we don't really like this. I mean I'm giving a very high level view of what I do. No one tells their secrets to the
Sure,
world
sure.
and to what they do because I do a bunch of other things as well. But there are other players that follow similar or protocols.
Okay.
I see packets of MCT oil lying around sometimes. I see other players with their ketone shots. So we
Okay.
know what we're doing, but like everyone's
For
got their own
sure.
little formula, and that's fine. Mine is like OMAD
Okay.
and ketones, and so that works great for me. But there's no way I could play at that level. Of, I'm scarfing down a sandwich every 2 hours, blood sugar
Right.
doing this, crashing back down. You like the last thing you want is a blood sugar drop in the middle of a very intense hand where you're trying to figure things out and you have time limitations. So for me, it's like mental clarity is paramount.
No, no, it totally makes sense. And then I think going back to what you're saying about carnivore, I fully agree. I think if you leverage carnivore as an elimination diet, and then if you are not sick or if you're well enough, then if you want to add back things because life happens, as you said, traveling Europe, Asia, I had the same issue in Korea and
Mhm.
Japan. I mean, Japan, there were some places that you can get enough steak, but Korea, it
But
was real.
the steak is marinated. They have like all
That
these
is true.
sauces. So then you get this, you order the steak and it comes in with like some sugary, like you can
Yeah, no,
taste the
it's
sugar.
really
I'm
true.
like, oh, this sucks. And it's very rude in Japan to send it back or anything
I
like
know.
that. So I just like gotta eat it, It's like
No, so right. So, but if you can get more resilient, and so maybe when you're at home and then you can eat strict carnivore, but then when
yeah,
you're traveling, that's the goal should be that if you have to, and if you have to eat berries or, grab something to
yeah.
go because that's what real life is. I think that's the key.
This is my go-to sort of travel snack.
Okay.
Buy a
Very
bunch of like
these two.
anchovies and extra virgin
Okay.
olive oil, and you just put them in your bag, and you can open it. It's like it's better than a can of raw tuna. I mean,
Totally.
but like anchovies and olive oil, great. I mean, and I'm not by the way, I'm not fanatical about only butter and lard. I mean, I think olive oil's fine,
I agree.
coconut oil's fine, and what's the other one I would have? Avocado oil. I'm fine with those three.
Okay. Yeah, no, agreed,
Yeah,
agreed. I think we have people in our practice that sometimes tallow or any of the rendered fats cause them to have loose stools while they're transitioning to a carnivore
yeah.
diet. So then we're like, okay, can you find a higher quality olive oil that's probably not mixed in with other seed oils? And then if they can tolerate that, I still need their fat to go up and their ketones to produce.
What I
So,
actually recommend is try using coconut oil. I think Nutriva, the
okay,
extra virgin coconut oil, and titrate it up. So start off with like 2 teaspoons a day, go to three, four, five, and it will loosen their stools a lot. So they're going to have this reaction initially the first couple of days, but it actually has a weird cleansing mechanism.
okay.
It's antimicrobial.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
yeah.
something, it cleans out something, and then after a while, it's just great. Like, so you're going to get your fats in, but it actually has a very nice cleaning effect. I've noticed, and I've done some research on it, and it's supposed to have that. So some people who don't tolerate lard, it's a saturated fat as well, so at least you get the energy from it too.
Okay.
And by the way, like I don't know if you saw today, or the past couple of days, RFK and the FDA came out and said they're now advising for saturated fats. So
Oh,
they're
right.
like
That they're going to try to
debunking the
remove
whole.
the,
It's because like the whole Ansel Keys,
I know.
situation, the 7 country study. He was paid off by the sugar fund. Like this is ridiculous. We're
I
still
know.
living in this lie.
I
And
know.
I've gone and done weeks where I only have salmon. So I became a customer of Utopia because I was pretty anti-fish in general because I'm trying to get my omega 3 to 6 ratio as low as possible, and I go down to 3. And the fish out there that you buy in Whole Foods and all the other places, it's farmed. They put tuna trimmings in. They get fish corn. Where do fish find corn in the ocean, right? And so Seatopia's got algae kelp, high omega 3 sort of diets for the fish, and they test for mercury and microplastics and all those things. So it's a very like safe. It's Seatopia.fish. And I am so but having said that, I went on a Seatopia diet for maybe about a week or 10 days, where literally every meal twice a day was just fish, salmon, or whatever, twice a day. And so I was like, let's just see what happens if I go carnivore, fish carnivore. What happens? Because like all the fats are good, right? There's no
Right.
saturated fats really. I got weaker and weaker. It didn't feel good. I I think fish is fine, and I'm happy. I do have it. Like I'll often have fish for dinner, but if I don't get saturated fats every single day in my diet, I get weaker. And I've tested this out many times over the years, but definitively, if you do like a fish diet for a week, you will see definitively that versus a beef diet for a week. Your gym, your performance, everything is way better on saturated. So my body functions well on saturated fats, not unsaturated fats. But I think anchovies and sardines and fish. I'm happy to have it, but it's not for me. It's you got to balance out the different
Sure.
meats that are out there. And but for me, and again, I go back to the point that like this documentary was done because I wanted to share the knowledge that I had around what is the most optimal diet for humans and what we function on best. And I found that basically eating beef is the best source of nutrition for me,
When
and
you,
and specifically grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Because when I eat corn-fed beef and high, even though it's high fat, the I actually feel the inflammation in from that meat. Because at one point I used to wake up at night and my arms were like numb, like I had this like numbness in my arms for years, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And the one day, and this was like 7 years ago, the one day there was 2 days. One is I had a very big beef steak, and I had the same problem in my arms and none. It's very weird. You wake up and you have to like get blood flowing through your arms and get sensation back. It's a very weird feeling. And then the other day was after I had this like fried chicken sandwich. At a great, like I had a lot of fried chicken the one day, all like canola oil fried. This is
sure.
2019 maybe. I'm like, what is going on in my body? Why am I reacting to this? And my HSCRP was high, everything. And I looked at my blood markers and like, what high levels of inflammation? What is causing this? And then I went on the whole seed oil, that's like 6 years ago. Cut out seed oils in my diet, and then the stuff started going away. So I cut out seed oils, got my inflammation down very nice and low. But I still found that corn-fed beef in some cases would still trigger it.
Mm.
But the moment I switched to grass-fed, grass-finished beef, I've had zero issues. And so, as much as there are people out there who, will argue for corn and grain-fed cattle, I think that I just don't think it's a good thing. When I looked at the ratio of omega 6s to 3s in other parts of the world, especially like the blue zones, these guys are ultra low. It's like under 1 to 1 in some cases. So it makes perfect sense that if we are running these high inflammation diets, 19 to 1 in the US, it's going to make people sicker. It's going to make them fatter. It's going to make them more disease prone. Inflammation is, and so omega 6s are bad in high amounts, and omega 3s are good because and this is stuff we already know. So just adjust accordingly. Not everybody can afford to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, but I think there's lots of places you go like Butcher Box and those places where they're not very badly priced. You can get decent grass-fed, grass-finished beef online, and I think you cut out all the costs of all the vegetables and other crap that you eat, and the stuff is actually a lot more affordable.
No, totally. In our practice, if there will be people that will react to the grain finished meat, and it could be that there's like a histamine response because the meat is more aged. So then we'll try the grass finished versions and varieties, and they may still react to that. And so they have to go directly to the rancher and see if they cannot age it that much. And so there's all these nuances of essentially basically making your immune system not react. And then as you heal, you should be able to tolerate the grain finished because, yes, it's not as clean and natural as a grass finished. But if you are healthy enough, it's still far better than all the other like foods out there. So we have seen that as people heal through the carnivore like elimination diet protocol, that they can eat. They don't have to stick to just grass finished. Obviously, for the animals, for the land, it is better. But if
Mhm.
they wanted to eat grain finished, they could, assuming that no seasonings and no, it's not adulterated in any way and stuff. But I,
Exactly. Yeah,
go ahead.
exactly. And I think the way a lot of my friends ask me, why are you so anti-vegetables? And I'm like, well, the thing about a cow is it's got all these like systems in it to filter out all the toxins that come from mass farming. And
Right,
and people don't appreciate how much glyphosate's in the corn, how much
right.
glyphosate's so even the grass-fed cows, like at least they're not eating corn. The corn-fed cow, they're still taking some of the glyphosate, it's still being pushed into their body. So it's being filtered a lot more, but you're still going to get some of it in the meat somewhere. And I just want to be as clean as possible. But it's really hard
That's
when you're
fair.
traveling. So that's the one thing. For people who travel a lot, I honestly, the best thing is I have biltong, which is like South African
Oh,
dried
okay.
meat. I have biltong and I take, I actually often will get just like boiled eggs I take on the plane.
Mhm.
And like I'll fly first class and they'll bring me the meal. I'm like, I don't want the meal, thanks. I'll bring out my eggs, put some salt and pepper, and I'm good. I don't want to eat the crap that they serve on planes.
Yeah, no, no, no. It totally makes sense. I really like that when you brought up animal, especially at the premiere, you said there's so much good content about carnivore and like the perfect diet, but there's maybe what we really need is like one succinct video or movie that
Hmm.
shares like why should I even try this way? And that's sort of how you wanted to share animal. How has the acceptance been of the film? What are your thoughts? Was is there anything that you would change? And then did it come out the way that you wanted?
I think the movie came out great. Josh and the team did a fantastic job on it. We were number one in 5 countries when we released it. There's not much I would change. I think we took a more extreme view by basically being a very much a meat focused documentary, like hey, just eat beef and whatever, maybe some fish, and nothing else. And I think there's probably a balance, but the problem is you tell people to do an elimination diet and then you tell them to eat yogurt
Right,
and
right.
they've got some sort of like casein allergy, then they're gonna be like, this thing doesn't work. So if you really want to solve your health issues, you start with like one single food source. Or you can do like just start with beef, salt, and water, and maybe you can add eggs and bacon later on and butter and see how it goes. But you got to start on that side to sort of relieve yourself. This movie isn't for people who are healthy. And when I say people, but let me preface that. If you're a healthy person, in the sense that you are not on any medication of any type, your blood sugar levels are normal, fine, you got no issues, and your blood markers are great, you don't have to change anything right now. You can just keep living your life the way you're living it. But keep in mind that plant toxins build up in your body. I witnessed this firsthand. So there will be a point where the toxins build up to such a degree that you may start getting sick at some point, and then you have to consider it, and then you go watch the movie. So that's the one caveat I'd say. Like not because it's hard to convince someone who's in perfect health that they should go change what they're doing. And I get it. And Anthony Chaffee makes this point as well. He says, like, if you get poisoned and you die early, you're still poisoned, even though it's
Right.
slowly, right? So it's like, but again, it's hard to convince people that they're wrong if they're in perfect health. But the flip side is if you think you're in perfect health, but you're on 5 different medications and you're having mood swings and you're
Right.
having dips and your energy and then like life isn't good and you're depressed and the pharmaceuticals will give you these ups and downs and you will not feel like I'm a very steady stable state type of guy. Like people who know me are like I'm always the same. I don't have these super highs. I get excited, but I don't get these like super lows. And I'm like, yeah, you have little down days here and there, but for the most part, I'm very even keeled, and that's because I think I have a very balanced approach to my health now. And I wasn't always like this. I mean, I was a little bit more energetic and up and down. But now I've like in the current state I'm in, ketosis, carnivore, whatever, gym, I'm in a very good flow state. Um, a lot of people I meet, I get, you can't interfere with people's lives, but I meet a lot of people who are clearly not in the right frame of mind, the right good point of their life, right? In a good phase of their life. And it's very evident to me. And you can't like I don't want to reach out to people and say, hey, you need to change this.
Right.
But now I have a movie and I can just say, hey, you should check out my movie, go watch it. And then, and I've had people who are friends or vegetarians or vegans that watch it, they've converted now and they feel so much better and they're thanking me for this. So I just have a nice way of helping people without forcing it down their throat because it's like, hey, watch my movie. If you know me, you should watch it.
No, I love it. I think that I agree with you that people think that if they're in good health, they shouldn't or they don't need to eat this way. I do think it's the most, it's the best way to eat if you are a human because it's more species appropriate. Like you said, there's less plant toxins. I really question if most people in America and even the world are healthy. Like you said, we normalize so many things. So eczema, we think eczema is so normal. It is not. Having
No.
psoriasis, these are autoimmune illnesses. It's saying that your gut is messed up. People having lows and, oh, I struggle with anxiety or I'm depressed, but hey, no, I'm fine. I could eat whatever I want. Or those things are contributing because of the way you're eating. So I think honestly that maybe not everyone has to eat strict carnivore beef, salt, water, but I think that most people, so even my boys who technically don't really have health issues, they eat meat based. So I say eat the meat on the table first and with a bit of higher fat, I want them to have a good amount of testosterone. And then if you want some carbs, if you want a popsicle, then have it after. And so that's how we
Yeah.
balance it for them to make it more, I guess, real life. But I think everybody needs, if you look at the fundamentals of nutrition and the neurotransmitters and the sex hormones, you need that from meat. So I
Mm.
think it's so imperative. And so your film allows people to see it in a short period and it's pretty convincing. And I think you got really good sound bites. I think,
Mm.
the Vinny, your team did such a good job with that. And so I
Mm.
think it's great. And so thank you for even funding this.
No, thank you. And honestly, like I don't even think I'll make the money back on this, but that wasn't the point. Like it was again, not a special interest group. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not here to sell you anything. Like, it's literally my sort of gift to the world. Like, hey, here's something which I think was very helpful for me, and I wanted to spread the word around it. And what's interesting is how it's getting suppressed though by the very kind of quote, wouldn't say left leaning, but like the vegan sort of on the sort of agenda. Like if you go search for it on, and I've had a number of people send me screenshots. If they search for animal documentary or carnivore animal documentary, it shows like forks over knives and vegan
Oh,
documentaries. And
wow.
I don't know
I'm
whether it's an
advertised.
algorithm thing or some sort of bias, but we were number one in 5 countries in the world, like US, Canada, UK, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. We were like number one on the Apple Store in documentaries. We received no mainstream media coverage. We've reached out to them. We've had a
Wow.
PR team. They don't want to cover it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about a meat-only diet. It's like, no, it's taboo. These people are vegans working in these organizations. They are offended by it. They think it's really, really bad, and we shouldn't be promoting this at all. And so we've got to fight. Like big tech is based in Northern California. It's where I was spent a lot of time. It's a very vegan heavy culture. Netflix is putting out vegan propaganda all day long. It's like all the documentaries about food is all vegan, but it's all propaganda. Because the people who work there are vegans and they don't want to have an animal agenda. So this information is being hidden from the mainstream audience because the mainstream sort of vehicles, whether it's Netflix or the newspaper publications, etc., they're very much pro-vegan and pro anti-meat. And so it's hard to get the message out. And so the only way this message gets out there is people try it, they feel better, they get off all their medications, they feel healthier, they go, this works, and they tell their friends about it, and it
Right.
becomes a cult hit, and it changes the course of the discussion. Look, that's the best that I can do is put it out there, but it's up to the community to make this thing actually take off.
No, I love it. And again, thank you. I think, RFK being out there and sharing clips where he's cooking in tallow and then and then having this video where now I can say, hey, if you don't want to read a book, you can go watch this movie. I think
Yeah.
these are all great things. I want to talk a little bit about crypto. So you're in that space. I have family members that are very active in that space as well. But I've met so many people in the carnivore space, even from like 7 years ago, that have always been in Bitcoin. What is it? Is it the decentralization? What is it about the two worlds that are colliding and colliding even more that carnivores are also in the crypto space? And then for the carnivores that are not in the crypto space, is it a safe, we hear about all of these the fraud and the money loss and all that. Is it safe? And I know Bitcoin is going sky high. Do you think it'll ever hit $1 million?
I mean, I think $1 million is not on the cards anytime
Okay.
soon. Probably like, I mean, if it does get there, I think we'll have to wait at least another couple of years. I mean, everyone thinks it's gonna happen this cycle. It's kind of
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
I've been in Bitcoin for like 12 years now.
Okay.
So I got in really early. One of the early developers in Bitcoin was a guy named Zuko Wilcox who started Zcash. And he was the first guy who told me about carnivore diet. He was on it. This is 2014, maybe. And we
Wow.
were at a little conference and he was telling me he only eats meat. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, dude, you're nuts. I thought he was insane. He's a genius guy, but he was like, I'm like, this is nuts. And so what is the overlap between why a lot of Bitcoiners do carnivore? I guess two things. One is a lot of Bitcoiners are into keto, and carnivore is just like the most sort of perfect version of keto. It's zero. Instead of going for 20 grams of carbs a day, you're just going 0 grams of carbs a day, and you feel better. You process better. You can code for hours. Same thing, right? It's like playing poker, coding, whatever. Long periods of focus. So I think that the community who are deep tech guys appreciate how important keto is when you want to have these long focused work sessions of coding. The second thing is when you start delving into the economics around cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all these other, Ethereum, Solana, whatever else, you start to recognize that, well, there's a bunch of philosophies, Austrian economics, Keynesian, different schools of economic thought around money and monetary policy. And then you start recognizing that, like, well, the government's running a deficit right now. So we're running a massive deficit and we keep spending more money than we make. And so years of how it ties into crypto. In crypto, you can't create bitcoins out of nowhere, right? It's a programmable. So if the industry overinvests in one cycle and there's not enough bitcoins coming out of the miners, tough luck, right? Or the price doesn't go high enough. In the U.S. government, you just print more money to pay your debts. Like in crypto, you can't print more coins to pay your debts. It doesn't. There's a fixed schedule. Where this ties back in is if you look at what's happened in the US is that over the past 100 years, through World War One, Two, Vietnam War, whatever, right? Like we had, you know, all these where wars are just typically, not accretive to any culture. It's you can go and loot and take the other country's gold, but it's the only people make money are the like military contractors, right? Like and maybe there's some sort of trade deals afterwards or whatever. But what happens is and what happened in 1940, like the late 1940, I mean, the late part of World War II was that we started running out of meat for the front lines. And so the message was, let's convince the population to eat more vegetables. So they started putting up propaganda and posters and placards in the UK and US, eat your vegetables. And they were pushing this vegetable agenda because vegetables are cheap, right? It's cheap calories. Feed the people the cheap calories, save the meat for the soldiers who need the meat because they have to go to war and fight, right? So you have this like weird situation where there's meat shortages. And then after the war, you have a similar problem because now you have inflationary issues. Because now we're spending money post-war, etc. And you got to keep the price of meat down because if the price of meat goes up, people are gonna get angry and upset. So you push the vegetable agenda. Kellogg's brothers keep producing more Kellogg's. Just keep feeding them cornflakes and crap. And that's where what was really the start of like America's health problems over the years. It's the seed oils. It's cheap product. And so if you delve into, there's actually a book which I actually found out about after I was figuring out all these things. It's called Fiat Food or something. And I haven't read it yet, but they delve into the idea that basically governments inflate away the value of the currency. That's why the value of the dollar declines. But in order to keep food, um, available, if people will revolt. If food became too expensive, you'd have internal civil war, right? If people can't eat. So what do? You switch out things. You switch out like the healthy stuff with unhealthy stuff. You take away olive oil, you put in canola oil. You take away you put artificial dyes, artificial colorants, and you basically here's what happens in a situation where inflation is really rising and there's a population to feed. If you're a supplier and you go to the retail, whether it's Walmart or whatever, right, and you sell your product today, and let's just say it's some sauce, okay, a hot sauce, Worcester sauce, something, and you go to them today and say, guys, inflation's high, we have to pay more wages, we have to pay this, more rent, we need to increase the price by 20%. And they go, sorry, guys, the government's told us we can't increase prices. We're under pressure from the White House, but inflation's running high. We can't do that. You have to cut the costs. So there are two things you can do. One is you cut the size of the portion, which is called shrinkflation. So you make it a smaller bottle or a smaller bag or whatever it is. Or you substitute goods in. You say, well, we can cut the cost of this product by putting cornstarch in instead of whatever else you were using before or artificial dyes. And so, well, it's the same product. It kind of tastes the same. No one's going to know the difference. We'll just change one or two ingredients on it. And now we've cut the cost by 10, 15%. And no one's going to know it. And everyone says, okay, great. So this is why when you grow up today, people go, oh, I ate this stuff as a kid. It's not the same product. It's been diluted down because of inflation, because these suppliers had to keep the price down. And there's, when you tell a food supplier you can't increase prices because of inflation, the only option they have is make the quality of the food worse. So over decades and decades of this compounding in, food has gotten cheaper, cheaper, worse and worse. And it's because literally inflation and the value of the dollar has been eroded over decades. And the governments are fighting, the food companies, the retailers to keep food costs low, because if food costs rose too much, I mean, look at what is happening in 2021. People, I mean, price of eggs were going, people were going, civil war could have broken out of the country for another year. Like everyone was like freaking out because they couldn't afford to pay for groceries. And the human body is such that we're very adaptable to anything. Like you can give me a really crap meal right now, I'll survive. I'll get the calories out of it and it's fine. So I can go on a bad diet for a year and I'll survive. I might feel crap, but I'll survive. Humans can extract calories from anything just about. We're so efficient at extracting calories that you can basically feed us junk. And so again, back to it's slow poison, right? So we can poison ourselves slowly or quickly. It's like our choice. But if we're eating suboptimal food because governments are misspending the budget and applies to both political parties over the past 100 years, like everyone, they all do it, and inflation comes in and the value of the dollar declines. Guess what? You're going to be eating junk. Now, the one thing that hasn't changed in 100 years is beef. So it's maybe there's some hybrid cows out there, but the meat's pretty clean. So you eat a steak, it's the same steak our ancestors ate, pretty much. It's the same meat, bison, steak. Chicken, I would argue, isn't, by the way, because chicken they've changed dramatically over the past 100 years. But for the most part, beef and cows haven't changed much, and so it's kind of the perfect food source for us. Even some of the some anchovies and sardines and that sort of thing. So inflation is what's actually eating away at our health, not because processed food has had to become more and more cheaper and unhealthy. And so the moment you move to unprocessed foods and stay away from vegetables and glyphosates and even the farming, like they had to become more efficient with using the land. So they had to put glyphosates and they had to go, and this is why, I mean, Europe doesn't use glyphosate, but America had to because we had all these food shortages. And that's why the government subsidized the corn industry. And that is a whole different rabbit hole. The corn industry subsidies are just a whole different rabbit hole. But yeah.
So I get that the processed foods, I guess the mismanagement and the inflation is what's causing our part of the reason of why our food is becoming cheaper, crappier, and
Yeah.
obviously the food industry still wants to make money. Is that then the same thought of, okay, so these same people that know that the food industry is bad, so therefore I'm going to eat a different kind of
No,
food?
no,
Go.
no, no. It's the protest against government overspending in the Bitcoin community is the same
Okay,
mindset that
gotcha.
applies to. So you own Bitcoin or gold or whatever it is to hedge against inflation. You
Mm,
own those assets because you know the government's overspend,
got it.
and you should be carnivore for the same reason, because governments overspend and because inflation, because the actual measures of inflation are being manipulated. So when they say inflation is 7%, when it was 2021, oh, inflation is 8%. It was like 30%. What are you talking about? Everything, like the price in grocery stores, but they were hiding it. They were trying to like suppress inflation numbers. So we are I think the crypto and Bitcoin community a lot more aware of what's going on in sort of broader macro global economics, inflation, etc. So we take more of a stance against that, saying, you know what? I think that the protest against that is to feed yourself the ideal food that you should be eating and not eating processed garbage. And at the very least, if someone's watching this and you don't want to be carnivore or even animal based, just cut out processed junk. I mean, like that'll add years onto your life. When I say processed, it's like anything that's got more than one or two ingredients in it is processed. Um, like yeah.
Do you think that most people should then, I mean, just with all the logic you just shared, it sounds like most people should also be considering whether it's investing in gold or crypto, that they should also be doing that?
I'm a big fan of gold. I think gold is
Okay.
actually the one true. store of value that's been proven over centuries, where Bitcoin is unproven. It's 15 years old, 16 years old. It's unproven. It's more speculative. Yeah, you can get a better return. It can also go down 50%. Gold's not dumping 50% in a day or a week. It's just not. Like we're past that point right now. I think that gold is going to hold its value. It's trusted by central banks around the world. It's gold is here to stay. It atomically cannot be changed.
Sure.
Bitcoin can be changed, actually.
Mhm.
So people make the mistake. Bitcoin, if the community agrees to change something, they can change it. If you and I agree to change gold, gold's not going to change. Like there's no amount of community consensus that can change the atomic elements of gold, but community consensus can change Bitcoin.
In terms of gold, I know it's at an all-time high, all-time-ish high. When I brought that up to somebody, they brought up that FDR during his reign or his rule or whatever you want to call it.
They seize gold, yeah.
Yes. So do you
They could seize your Bitcoin as well. They
I know,
could
I know. So
seize
I was going to say,
Bitcoin.
do
Yeah.
you fear any of that? So
Yeah.
you know how they're starting to put in governmental, they're allowing banks to hold Bitcoin, and so my concern is, could any of this stuff be taken away? So
Yeah.
we think we're doing sovereignty by going into these other areas, but
Yeah, they can seize gold. They can seize Bitcoin. Um, will they? Probably not. I think we have a much more established sort of rule of law right now in the US, and I think it'd be very hard for to exercise that again. We've been through it already. Other countries, for sure, they can seize Bitcoin and gold. If there's a global financial collapse of some sort, you're going to see the weirdest shit happen. It's really, it's like it's going to get crazy. So the idea, like for me, it's like have some gold, have some Bitcoin, have some property, have some stocks, have some whatever. Like diversify yourself,
diversify.
right? Make sure you have enough cash to survive 18 months downturn.
Yeah, and then also be the healthiest you could be by eating.
Yeah,
This goes back to eating a
yeah.
meat-based diet. It's
Well,
in,
health is wealth, right? So like
yes,
people who are unhealthy, their wealth gets eroded through medical
mhm,
bills.
100%.
So what's the point of saving money and buying food and putting the money away? And then like literally there are people who save $2 extra per pound on grass-fed versus corn-fed beef, put that into a savings account, and then go spend three times that on medical bills in 20 years' time. Like it makes no sense.
No, no, agreed, agreed. I think a lot of people focus on today, and so but you have to think of long term, especially if we
Yeah.
retire and
It's
stuff.
one thing if you're not saving the money, by the way. It's one thing if you're like, oh, I just can't afford it, and then that's fine. But if you're taking away from your health today to save for a future that you may not be in a healthy state in, that's I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
No, absolutely. And if you're unwell, there's just less things that you could do because
Yeah.
we work with people that are unwell and some of them can't even work because they're unwell. So then we're like, yeah, I know these things cost money, modalities, diets, even if it's like the grass finished. We are fans of omegas because we see it reduce
Mm.
inflammation. So we are fans of
Yeah.
getting sardines and salmon. And then we say, I know that you feel bad now, whether it's borrowing money from your family or not working, but the minute you get healthier, you can give back. That's when you could start working and you can. So I think it is so important. And in our community that are really unwell in the carnivore community, their only wish is to be well. Whereas all of us, when we have our health or to an extent of our health, we have all these wishes of like, what are our dreams in life? And for when you're really sick, you literally have just one wish of, I just wish that tomorrow I have no pain. And I know, I'm sure that your wife understands that from the story that you shared. And so that imprint in her life will always be lasting. And so her view of the world of how she eats will always be impacted. And I hope that your film really shares that with other people because I mean, I was in a suicidal ward where basically if I didn't heal, that they were not going to let me out. So, I mean,
Mm.
and so that's what changed my life too. So I'm
And that's a gut brain axis issue, really.
yeah,
Like a lot of the data and science I've seen around this is you get the bad microbiomes in your gut. And I actually have a friend who knows someone who actually, unfortunately, went on that path. But like it was a pure gut issue, and they didn't heal it in time. And I think the thing about like aerobic and anaerobic bacteria and carnivore diet and depriving it of glucose. I mean, by the way, depriving your body of glucose is a good thing because it actually stops like cancer growths as well. It's been proven to do that, and it kills off bad bacteria as well. So I mean, I think even if you just do carnivore for like 60 or 90 days as a reset and go back to your normal life afterwards, I think you'll be better for it. And then what you'll find out is you'll find that you just want to get back on it because it's so
right. No,
good.
exactly. No, that's exactly how I try to share carnivore. It's I know you think this is a crazy diet. Just try it for 30,
Yeah.
60, 90 days. You know how you feel today, symptoms, mental health, all
Mm.
the things. And if you feel better, then that's a win. If you don't like it, you can always go back to what you're eating today. It's not going to shift that much. Your microbiome will go back to whatever you're eating. But imagine the benefit if you do heal, and there's
Yeah.
tremendous healing. So I think that's such a great way to share it. You know, as we're closing, for people that are watching this, any tips or hints in terms of the diet? Like, is there a easier way to transition? Even with crypto, is there a way that people should start looking at if they're brand new to the whole cryptocurrency world? Is there something that you would recommend them watching, reading, learning from?
I think with cryptos, be careful because crypto goes through these cycles where it's like extreme euphoria. Right now, it's like everyone's super excited and
Yep.
messaging, and oh, it's going up, and Ethereum is going up, and Bitcoin's all-time highs. These things turn violently the other way. And I've been in it for long enough to tell you that I've seen a lot of people lose their shit. So, think of it as gambling, and put some money in, and don't think of it as investing. And if you think of it with an investment mindset, you're probably gonna lose money. If you go gamble and say, hey, I'll buy this crypto, I'll buy that crypto, it's like going to the casino, putting money on a roulette number. That's fine. It's like I don't have an issue with people gambling, but do it responsibly. If you want to make investments, then you should be buying, if you want to protect against a downturn, buy gold. I think that's probably the safest by far. I don't like giving investment advice generally because everyone's got a
Yeah, yeah,
different
no, no, no.
financial portfolio. I just think that crypto is a lot more volatile than people make it out to be. And hey, it could run up, it could go down. The point is it's like it's just it's a very volatile asset class, and it's not for the faint of heart. And a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm making a 10-year investment." I'm like, "Well, do you have enough cash to last 2 years?" Like, no, not really. So what happens if the things drop and you need money and you get fired? Oh, I have to sell it then. Well, then it's not a 10-year investment. You can't have a 10-year investment if you may need to sell it in 10 years. And so a lot of people make that mistake. When it comes to the documentary and animal, I mean, I'd like people to watch it. Go to, depends on which country in the world you are. You go to an Apple store. If it's not there, you go to watch.animal.movie, and then just help spread the word about it. That would be fantastic. And give us feedback. I mean, we're on Animal Doc Film on X. I'm at Vinny Lingham on X. And I think the one thing I will say is I think 30 days is a minimum for people. I only really saw real like progress after like 60 days. So I think that if you can push through 60 days and start with the mindset that you're going to do it for 60 days and use eggs. Eggs are a great way to sort of curb hunger. At night, you're hungry and it's like 8 o'clock and you want a snack. Boil 2 eggs, put a tablespoon of olive oil with it and some salt and pepper, and you'll be fine. You'll go to bed, you wake up the next day. It's like 200 calories. It's not gonna hurt you. Use eggs, but eggs, like as Ken Berry says, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs is kind of his formula. Just do that for 60 days. Throw some salmon in there, throw some fish in there, and anchovies, but get the 60 days done with no carbohydrates and see how good you feel.
Yeah. And some people may be sensitive to eggs, so then you can
Yeah,
try. We
yeah,
also recommend bacon. Some people have just a couple bites of meat and add a little bit of butter or fat or
totally fine.
olive oil,
Totally
whichever
fine.
one. But it's the goal is to get off the sugar roller coaster and then
Yes.
see. And I always recommend write down all of your symptoms that you have today before you get started because people forget how good they felt and they'll still focus in on the things that are
Yeah.
still not working enough. And I think
Yeah.
if you have the comparison, you'll realize, oh, this thing is working, even though doctor says saturated fats are bad or that eating meat. Right,
Cholesterol,
right.
like it's such a lie. Like, oh, cholesterol's 250. It's not. I mean, 50 years ago, 300 was like,
I know.
was normal, right? They keep changing the numbers. So ignore the cholesterol stuff, the LDL stuff. You can do any diet for 60 days and it's
Right.
not going to kill you, right? Like, you'll be fine. So I would say definitely do blood work before and after. Focus on something called HSCRP, which is an inflammation marker. And if yours is high, and retest it and look at your HbA1c, which is your blood glucose average. I think it's like 90 days average,
Yeah.
and your glucose, fasting glucose. Look at those things. So like inflammation and insulin are the two things you should be worried, and your C-peptide and your insulin markers. Like these are things you should like test for and ask your doctor to monitor. Do 60 days of carnivore and go back and see all go to look at all your markers. I struggle to think of any situation where someone's going to come back in 60 days and be worse off.
Right.
With the exception of again, they the cholesterol, like ignoring cholesterol, everything else is going to improve. Everything else.
Yeah, even people in our practice who where sometimes they need a little bit more support than the diet, there's no one that says carnivore made me worse and so I
Yeah.
needed to eat back a other diet. It's just carnivore didn't maybe fix everything and so then I need to do other things. So I'm right there with you. I don't know a single person that can't eat a meat-based or carnivore diet and for full healing, maybe environment needs to be looked at too, or the mind body. I think that whole nervous system stuff is huge too. But like you said, I don't know anybody that said no, there were no benefits with carnivore. Like I would, that would be shocking if you're, especially if
Yeah.
you're eating a standard American diet.
The gut changes are probably the most powerful and profound. One other tip I think is I moved over to 2 meals a day for the most part. Like some days I'll have three or whatever, but like for the most part, it's 2 meals a day. When I'm playing poker, it's 1 meal a
Mhm.
day. But most days I'm working out. I'll work out in the morning and I'll have my first meal between 11 and 12 and my second meal around 4 to 5.
Okay.
And and that gives
Same.
me 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours for digestion after my meal before I go to bed. Try and go to bed a little hungry. Maybe before bed, take some. I do glycine, magnesium, inositol, and maybe some tart cherry or whatever. Like just like a nice sleep supplement keeps you down the whole night. The glycine keeps your body temperature nice and low. The inositol helps with sugar regulation and better deeper sleep. And magnesium is pretty critical, which we don't get enough at the moment. So I just take that and go to bed, and I sleep really well. So
Okay. So you
for the
don't
most
really
part, I
wake
mean,
up in
I
the,
don't sleep a lot. I get 6 hours a night sleep, but
okay.
for me, that's enough.
Okay. And you don't really
Uh,
wake up in the middle of the night.
Sometimes, but not often.
Okay.
And
Okay.
more chance of an early morning wake up, like 5 a.m. or something.
Okay. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much again for your time
Mm.
and for creating the film. We ask a question to all of our clients that start with us, and we ask, "What is the best way you consume information?" And majority of people say video.
Yeah.
The other options
Mhm.
are podcast and infographics and reading, but most people say video. So I think what you're doing is so
Yeah.
powerful.
Thank you. And I think it's an enjoyable film. I mean, the
Yeah.
graphics, the music. We had a band called Goldfish that the entire score for us.
Okay.
They're friends of mine. This would have cost us 20% of the film budget if we had to hire like a musician team that and they did us a huge favor on this. It's a super high quality track.
Yeah.
People will love it. It was like perfectly timed. And these guys are, I mean, they're millions of followers. They're a very big band, and he's carnivore. So one of the guys, so he did it because it's a passion project for him as well. The sound, the visuals, the storytelling, the people in it. You obviously you're critical to it. I think it's just a great story. I mean, in fact, one guy I posted on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that, but he was crying after he saw your story. He went through something similar. So it's touching people. I think it's building momentum slowly but surely. But again, it's being suppressed by mainstream. Nobody wants to talk about a meat eating diet. So it's up to the community if you want to. And honestly, like just tell your friends and eat it. That's if
Right.
someone needs to watch this movie, tell them they need to watch the movie. Just it's meant to be a way for people to communicate what the carnivore diet is and help heal people.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Can you share it one more time where people can watch the film if they're in the US and international, and then where can people find you?
So in the US, it's on the Apple Store, so your iTunes Store, or Amazon. You can go buy it there or rent it. And if you are not in the US, you can go to watch.animal.movie and you can just buy and watch it there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time again. And again, thank you for doing the film because it is so powerful to see all the brilliant minds in the carnivore space share, obviously, their own healing, but sharing the science and how we've been so lied to and
Yeah.
indoctrinated. And so I hope that when people change their diet, it opens their eyes for a lot of other things that we've been lied to as well. So thank you so much, Vinny.
Thank you, Judy. It's been great.
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you've never tried carnivore or a strict carnivore diet, and if you've never invested in crypto or even gold, I highly recommend looking into both of them. I do know people that are very close to me that do invest in these areas. And as Vinny mentioned, the whole crypto space is very volatile. I've seen huge swings in both directions, and it is truly not for the faint of heart. But if you would like to diversify because maybe you're not fully trusting of the governmental's way of spending, it may just be an option or an area of consideration. If you do eat a carnivore diet or have tried it and are meat based, and you know the healing benefits of carnivore, I highly recommend looking into the documentary Animal and then watching it with your loved ones or people you know that may have some level of chronic illness that you know would benefit from a carnivore diet. And that's pretty much everyone. I highly recommend sharing the film because it really is a grassroots movement to get the narrative to change about what it takes to have optimal healing, especially when it comes to diet. The government will probably never recommend that we eat just a carnivore diet, that saturated fats are the best type of fat, and that we should be eating meat and mostly meat for most of our meals. If they did that, both pharma and food industries would likely go bankrupt. So, it is really up to us individuals to share this movement, this grassroots movement, to share, hey, if you are unwell, you may want to consider a carnivore diet. And for me to explain it, it may be too difficult. But if you want to know the science, some stories, some healing journeys, and how we even take care of the soil, even on a carnivore diet, I highly recommend sharing the film Animal. Okay, guys, make sure to eat a lot of meat. Take care of your bodies because it is the only place you have to live. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.